Hey, so I thought I'd make a video because one, it's been a long time since I've made a video, and two, there were some things that happened recently that prompted me to think about where I'm at in my transition, so I thought it would be a good time to make a video. So the thing that prompted me to make the video, and by the way, this would be about 1.5 years on T at this point. I don't know the exact month, but generally speaking. So the thing that prompted me to make the video is, I guess, thinking about the upsides and downsides of this newfound male privilege thing, which to experience, like, the sudden acquisition of privilege socially is, like, the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. Basically, every joke that I make now is, like, 10 times funnier, like, more people in the room laugh, and it's the same jokes, it's like the same things that I find funny, and now more people like feel obligated to laugh at things that I say when I mean for them to be funny. So that's kind of weird. I definitely feel like people respect my ideas more when I offer ideas at work or amongst friends. So, for example, if someone asks like a general life advice type question, just like a general life skill, like how do I chop garlic the best? And if I were to explain that to them like 2 years ago, people would say, "Oh, are you sure? I've heard it's done this way sometimes too." And now when I say, "Oh, this is how you chop garlic," people are like, "Oh, thank you so much. I didn't know how to do that." So it's like this weird respect that all of a sudden I know how to do things that I've been doing the exact same way for years. So that in itself is very just shocking to experience directly how differently people are treated. And it's like, it's so weird. My friends, the ones that I'm giving this advice to, or like proposing these ideas to, those friends know that I'm trans half the time. So it's like this weird psychological thing where all of a sudden if you're presenting male, you have this deep voice or something, people like subconsciously respect your opinions more, which is really, really weird. And another thing, I guess the downsides to this male privilege thing is a story that I've shared with a couple people that I know in real life, so sorry if you have to hear this again, but essentially, once in a while, when I'm going to like sit down next to someone, maybe on a bus or like in a classroom or something like that, I've had a couple times where I've decided to sit next to a woman that's like smaller in stature than me, which in itself is rare, so this hasn't happened too many times. But when it does happen, I see this look in their eye that I wouldn't have recognized if I hadn't made this look at like every single male that I've ever walked past on the street. And it's like a look of fear, but it's pretty well hidden. Like, I don't think you would discover that look unless you had made it yourself. And I've seen twice now where I've sat down on a bus like next to a girl that's smaller than me, and she just looks up at me in like this second of fear, kind of like analyzes if I'm a threat, and then, turns away. And it's just like the weirdest feeling. The first time that happened to me, I was so sad for like the rest of the day. Not that she had made that look at me, but I was sad that I didn't do anything wrong, and people were looking at me like they're afraid of me, which, I mean, is not a new concept. I know that happens to people of color all the time. I know that that's happened to me for other reasons all the time. But for the reason to be distinctly that I was, like, this male entity was new. And the other time I experienced that was two young girls walking on the street in front of me, like, with grocery bags or something coming from the store, and I was, following close behind them, as that sometimes awkwardly happens when you're walking on the street. And, they sort of looked back at me like there's a scary older man behind me. And I never, like, seen a girl look at me that way. Like a young girl, like 8 years old. I was just like, oh my god, that's the worst feeling. So that's kind of a downside of being read as male, but, whatever, it is what it is. And then another downside that I thought of was I don't like that I have to lie a lot more. Like, now that I pass as cis, when I try to explain to people things like my dating life or whatever, I kind of have to, like, make it seem as though I've always been male in order for the conversation to go smoothly. So if someone, if we're talking about how girls expect guys to pay for dates, I have to be like, oh, yeah, girls, always expect me to pay for them. Which is not true, because, like, 90% of the people I've dated were when I was female, and no one expected me to pay for anything then. So, I don't know, it's kind of like I have to, not really lie, but I have to cover up this part of me when involved in a quick, like, small talk kind of conversation. And I really wish that I could go back to that time where I was visibly, female and trans, and I could just be like, well, since I'm transgender, and people would be like, oh, okay, I see that. Whereas now, if I were to say that, I don't think I have, but if I were to say, well, I'm transgender, so I used to expect the guy to pay for a date, and now I'm in a totally different position. If I said that now, people would, ask me all these questions that I don't want to answer. Then the conversation becomes, like, all about me, which is fun sometimes, but not when it's always about that. So, whatever. That's one of the other things I've noticed. And then another thing I was going to document, I guess, is the change in my sexuality. So I officially identify as polyamorous and also as bisexual, which I know the proper word is really pansexual, but I just like saying bisexual, so I'm sticking with it. But anyway, I don't know. I guess testosterone has obviously had an effect on me and my sexuality. I like women, I like men, and I guess I like sex now, sort of, not really. It's in a weird place where, like, I have a sex drive, but I don't know, I still am not comfortable with my body, and so, like, I don't know if I enjoy sex or not, because it involves my body, and I don't like that sometimes. I don't know, it's really hit or miss. But anyway, the polyamory part is what's important, and essentially, I don't think this is related to hormones at all, actually, but essentially I realized that I feel more like I'm living a more fulfilling life when I'm able to funnel, like, the love that I have for people and the world into multiple partners, because I don't know, I just feel like there are many aspects of me, many sides, many different faces that I show at different times, and I want ultimately to be able to be, like, everything, like a bunch of different personalities, at the risk of that sounding slightly crazy, with different people. That's who I am. So I'm excited that I found that. Otherwise, things are going alright. I'm pretty happy with the changes. And yeah, if you guys have any questions about, being this far on T, anything, feel free to leave a comment. Or if you want to talk about polyamory or other cool stuff, you can also leave a comment. I'm going to try to make videos more often, so hopefully you should see another one from me soon.